So this is the follow-up to the 5 manga you need to read now video I did not so long ago, and you guys really liked that one, so we're double dipping out here. I want to talk about the most obscure series that don't get that much attention put on them like that. But not to waste any more time, we're jumping right into it. Starting off, we have Imperfect Girl written by Nishio Isin. Now if you don't know who Nishio Isin is, he's the genius behind the Monogatari series, Madaka Box, and Katana Gatsuri, which is not related to the Monogatari series by the way. Imperfect Girl was originally a light novel, but that version was translated over to the West, so we're going to talk about the manga adaptation instead. So Imperfect Girl is based around the story of this aspiring author who is just the narrator, and he's detailing events that happened in his life prior to becoming a full-fledged author. And he's like any other aspiring author, hungry for work. He's sending out applications for work for several publications, he ends up having interviews with said publications, but they never end up going the way he wants them to. Constantly being sent away time after time, and he doesn't seem to understand why, because he's fully confident in the work he puts out. He has this inner conversation with himself over what his work is even supposed to be. He believes his work isn't that of an author, but an aspiring author. What this means is that he's writing something without really knowing what it is exactly he's trying to put out, saying that he's essentially lying about what it is that he does, whereas an author has that lived experience and know-how to be able to convey a story one so green such as himself can't properly portray as yet. He rides his bike and we see 2 girls get struck down by an oncoming truck. One of them managed to escape with their life while the other sadly did not make it. The girl playing her Game Boy saves her game and then takes off running. The narrator is perplexed by her, and this sets off the next chain of events. Yeah, that's just chapter 1 of this series. It's not fairly long either, only 3 volumes, so something you could 100% finish in one sitting, but it doesn't stop there. The narrator rides his bike again, but then falls off of it. He notices that a recorder was stuck inside the spoke of the wheel. After some time in class, he realizes that the girl he saw the other day had a recorder on her as well, and he believes it to be the same one. He makes his way home after class and notices his keys are missing. The narrator mulls over the events that happened to him recently and prepares to write until something sticks him in his leg. He looks down to identify what it is, and he sees the girl from the other day stabbing him in his leg with a box cutter. The entirety of this story is the narrator as an adult retelling you the events of when he was held prisoner by a girl that goes by the name of Yu. She holds him captive in her closet for an entire week and tells him that she will not let him leave as he will expose the real her. It is a very out there and bizarre story, and for anyone familiar with the Monogatari series, the setup with Yu's friend being killed is the same way that Hachikuji is also killed and turned into an apparition. Imperfect Girl really delves into the mystery of Yu and the house the narrator is trapped in. There's so much that unravels in there that I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but please give this one a read. You will not be sorry. Another story written by Shuzo Oshimi, we have Happiness. Now this is a story I always jokingly branded Twilight but better, but jokes aside, this is another doozy. Happiness is a story about a boy named Makoto Okazaki, and he's pretty much the errand boy in his school. Whenever a person wants something, they just tell him to do it, and he doesn't object to it. But on a fateful night, Makoto has to return a DVD that he borrowed. He rides his bike through his neighborhood and he spots a figure on a roof. He attempts to make sense of what it is he's seeing until said figure leaps out at him and bites him on his neck. She gazes at Makoto and then asks him a question. Do you want to die like this? Or be like me? Makoto, with tears in his eyes on the verge of death, goes, I don't want to die. The girl smiles at him and leaps away. Makoto awakens in a hospital surrounded by his family, and he's thirsty. And after seeing the prior events, we know that this is not a thirst that you can solve with some Gatorade. His body is already changing. He goes to school and is overwhelmed by the smell of blood. It clouds his mind, but then he's pulled aside by one of the boys that bosses him around. Makoto tells him to shut up and then nails him right in the face. Blood forms on the boy's face, and Makoto is yet again overwhelmed at the sight of blood and runs away from it, saying that this isn't him. Where Happiness shines is the coming-of-age stories that Shuzo Oshimi loves to write so much. It's not only a tale of Makoto becoming less and less human, but of a girl by the name of Yuki that wants to get to know him more as he becomes more and more mysterious. It's a story about friendship, romantic relationships, and dealing with high school whilst Makoto searches for his reason for living. This is another series that is finished, by the way. Went on for 10 volumes, so not that much of a commitment, but still. Easily one of my favorite horror mangas out there by a long shot. To explain this next manga, man, you guys are gonna have to bear with me because the premise of this shit is fucking nuts. So Gigant is written by Hiroya Oku, the man behind the insanity that is Gantz and even more insanity in Iwashiki. This is a story by an aspiring filmmaker by the name of Rei Yoko Yamada. Now Rei has an infatuation with an adult actress that goes by the name Papika. Okay, you guys are still with me. Great.
There's more!
So one day, Papika was walking down the street and she finds this homeless man with a helmet on and is in his underwear. Nothing you won't find in a big city here, right? Alright, boys? She attempts to help the man, but then he puts on a device on her wrist that doesn't come off, and he transforms into a dog. Weird, right? Well, there's more. So Papika returns home and messes with the device a bit, and then he turns into a giant. You guys are still with me, right? But that's not all. There's this website in this series called Enjoy the End. Now, what this website is, you're asking me? Well, I'll tell you. Enjoy the End is a website where you can vote on events that can happen no matter how wild or impossible they might be. So if you voted for, say, the Earth to split in half while cows are doing the can-can, this can happen. In Gigant, people voted for literal shit to come raining down. A famous actor running through the streets of Shinjuku butt-ass naked, and an earthquake. There's also a wish where a god of destruction comes down to lay waste on the world, but we're not going to talk about that one. And yeah, that's the premise of Gigant. It's a story about Rei and Papiko, real name Chiho, as they grow closer to one another and enter a relationship. Only problem is the fact that Rei is 17 and Chiho is 24. So their relationship is, well, you know. But they're having this very, very, very taboo relationship, and seeing the trials and tribulations they have to face while being in it is really interesting. I don't even know how one comes up with stuff like this, honestly. I'm a writer myself, but seriously, how in the fuck? Mujirushi is written by Naoki Urasawa, another returner from the GOAT. Mujirushi is a one-shot manga about a businessman named Kamada who owns this teeny tiny factory that makes products revolving around rubber. So big brain Kamada skimps out on paying his taxes so he can save up enough funds to take his wife on a luxury cruise. Here's the twist though. He gets hit with an audit he had zero idea was going to happen and his business tanks. And to make matters worse, you know his wife that he just took on a cruise and didn't even do his taxes for so he had the chance to do that? She manages to win the lottery and flat out dips on Kamada. Skedaddles. Goodbye and good night. Kamada, now searching for a win in his rapidly spiraling life, decides to make a bunch of rubber masks out of a man named Beverly Duncan, who was supposed to be a stand-in for our favorite gamer president. Only thing is, after Beverly Duncan sweeps the competition and wins the election, the general public stopped caring for him, and Kamada has now went through all this work to make these masks that people now have no interest in. Kamada, now at rock bottom, is about to uninstall his life, but before he attempts to do that, both him and his daughter Kasumi find this crow and a symbol, and it leads him to this man who wants to plan a heist to steal this valuable painting in France. Kamada and Kasumi agree, and that's where the story is headed. This is easily one of Naoki Urasawa's funnier works. There's not a story I've read of his that was less than great, and this is exactly that. It's fun, full of hijinks, and it displays a really nice relationship between a father and his daughter. The humor hits, the art is really good, and it's an overall fun time. And to end off the list, we have Bloody Monday. Bloody Monday is written by Ryu Ryuman, real name Shin Kibayashi, which is one of his many pen names that I only found out about recently. You may know of his work on the Kendachi case files. Bloody Monday is a story about a high schooler named Takagi Fujimaru who seems like he's just an average run-of-the-mill dude, but he's actually a very gifted hacker and goes by the name Falcon. At first, the story deals with Takagi managing to hack into his school's server to negate a suspension placed on a student by an instructor with a storied past. He ends up outing the instructor for being a predator, and he ended up getting taken out of the school. This is just a taste of the sort of things that Takagi can do, starting off small here. But of course, that's not where things end. Where things get really spicy is the fact that Takagi's dad ended up becoming a victim of circumstance. He gets framed for a murder he didn't commit and has to flee the scene. Seeing as he's immensely gifted at hacking, Takagi wants to clear his dad's name so they can return to being a happy family again. Except, there's more. His dad is a part of a much larger and grander scale operation. A whole ass group of terrorists have a plan to kill millions of people in Tokyo, and Takagi and his friends all have to come together to stop this. I've already given you guys enough, but I encourage you all to go further with this because it's just turn after turn after turn with this series. It's also finished, by the way, so if you ever want to binge, there it is. It's a shame that a story like this didn't blow up before because the premise is so damn good, but it's 100% worth your time if you ever get around to reading it. It's suspenseful, it's a thriller, It's a very cerebral manga at that, so everything's gonna keep you guessing. And that is going to be the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. It helps me out a lot. I love doing videos like these and talking with people in the comments about the manga they're reading or the ones they found interesting here. But that's enough out of me. I'll be seeing you all next time.